not so weird. Okay. Ready when you are.
I think we are already live. I just have to hold on. Let's see. I think we're live on. Are we live now? Hold on. Oh, yes. Okay. So what's up, guys? It's Japa Rico here, broadcasting live from Hong Kong. Today I have a special guest, is Angela Chan. We are broadcasting live on 2 channels on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to the show. Angela, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Japa?
Okay, so guys, first of all, I'd like to show a bit of a disclaimer here. So I provide information only. It's not meant to be a recommendation to buy or sell securities, nor an offer to buy or sell any financial products. Me and Angela, we are not a broker, and we don't attempt to or intend to influence the purchase or sale of any security. We don't guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the information displayed in any part of this live or the channel. Okay, having that said, let's start our live show. So Angela, can you tell us how did you start, what brought you to trading? How did you start it?
So the thing is, I used to be quite a passive investor, and and it was actually a lot of what my family did, and it was, I don't know, a bit of like a kitty being saved from when I was young. And I'm from Australia, so in Australia, the investment environment it's very different. The retail investors doesn't get involved as intensely. I think due to a number of reasons. One is the knowledge, and two, I think a lot of Australians, they may not have had as much savings in terms of allocating it into be it like a fund, in equities, in other forms of derivatives. And one of the biggest changes I probably had was a change in my career. I actually went from being an FMCG marketer to being a financial planner or / an insurance agent in Hong Kong. And that role increased an amazing amount of information, especially I had around financial literacy. So kind of what I mean by that, financial literacy is basically the ability to identify, I suppose, what risks are involved in the decisions we make about finances so that we can be accountable for our own actions. So that's kind of like my career change. Inadvertently, I think altered a lot of how involved I want to be in my own personal finances. And obviously, you know, when you grow older and maybe when you earn a bit more, you don't just want to rely on your salary or your current income. You kind of want to build something on the side, a little bit like the topic today, make your money work harder. I kind of thought, how would I manage, you know, with all the money you earned as a salary? How do you turn that, let's say, even if it beats inflation every year, like how do you go about doing that? So yeah.
Right, and before that, like, can you tell us about like how was this transition from passive to an active trader? Was it easy? And what were the first instruments that you started trading?
So one of the first things I did is I did a thing where the salary that came in every month. So sometimes we think about salary in terms of the income, right? We get an income could mean your salary, could mean your maybe rent money that you get, and you know, source of income can be a number of ways. It could be perhaps it's one salary, maybe it's dividends, etc. However, I think traditionally we always think that income is minus expenses would equals savings, right? That's how we traditionally think about the equation. But what it should really be is income less our savings, then it should be our expenses, because that's how we twist around and control the budgets that we had all the time. So it's pretty important, I think, we get a good grasp of what our savings could be. And how I did that, I did a very simple thing. I know when we're young, we really like spending the money we had on hand. So the most active thing I did, I opened an extra bank account. And every month I would allocate a portion over to that account. And how I did that was in Australia, it was a bit lucky because they allowed you to have like a couple, what they call payroll accounts. I think that's common in Hong Kong as well, and in across the world. So I would put a portion of what I earned as a salary and allocate it out into payroll. And this was on top. So even in Australia, this was on top of what I did for our pension. I mean, in Hong Kong, it's called the MPF. And then in Australia, it's called a superannuation. So I did it on top of that because I realized that your pension shouldn't be the only thing you rely on in the end of the day, because you want to save for a rainy day. So that was the first thing I did. I opened up a savings account, putting money away. And then what I then did with that savings was kind of like an afterthought. And that's when I suppose, personally, I actually did a commerce degree. So I did a Bachelor of Commerce. I majored in marketing and accounting, but I didn't major in finance.
Yeah.
Probably from a family member. They were very active in the way they not active, but they were more proactive, I would say, in the way they managed their money, like they knew what they were doing. It wasn't so much like, people do day trading or like a swing buy. It wasn't there. It was just that they knew how to track the budgets and what they spent as well. So I think budgeting and all of that, it's very, it's a fundamental before you do kind of any investments or any financial decisions, because if you spend everything you have every month, you don't have anything that you can put towards an investment. So I think the passive to the active, step one, is just save the money that you have on hand. So start with like a principle. Yeah.
Sometimes, okay, so do you have like, let's say somebody is very interested in starting like trading? Like would you say, for example, if there is someone who is a total beginner, doesn't know what to do, like should they start right away? Should they wait? And if they should start right away, what would be the percentage of their salary that they should allocate?
I would say that I think it depends on the life stage. So when I worked in insurance for a little while and I'm no longer in insurance, I'm using my past experiences, I would say it really depends on the life stage of a person. For example, if you just started when you just turned 18, you may still be living at home, right? You might take on a part-time job. However, it also means your expenses ain't so high because you're likely to still live at home, right? So you can allocate a portion of the income out to do something, and you don't have a lot of dependents like a mom and a dad to support, right? So I believe at that stage you can probably afford, I would say, to go up to between 30 to 50%, just because you don't have a lot of fixed expenses as such, right? So everything is just managed by you, how you spend it, or you prefer to spend it on, you go on a party trip, obviously you have less money in the bank. I think that actually changes when you have your first job, because everyone's life stage change, if you remember, by financial planning. We have, say, we're an adult, we go to being after you finish college or university, then you have a dependent, a partner, or husband and wife. Yes. And then you go through different stages of your life. I think what's really important, no matter what stage you're at, you actually need to save for the day when you bring it back. What do I mean by that? Traditionally, we would say you need to have 6 months of your salary kept in your account, your bank account, to make sure that in case something happens, emergency, you have something to fall back on. So after you minus that, I would say that I think in Hong Kong, I remember the organization called IFPHK. it's the International Financial Planning Hong Kong Association. They said that
Yes.
about like 30% threshold is majority of what people would dedicate towards. And this was after taking out the MPF or the pension in your relevant country. And there's a number of ways I think you can begin to allocate money, but I would say that 30% will be the max, and probably 10% is what probably some people afford. I mean, unless you live at home, I think it's quite tough for anyone to go beyond 30%, especially in Hong Kong, because the fixed cost in like rent, it's not low, compared to the rest of the world.
And what were the first products that you invest in? Or did you start with stocks, indices? I don't know, like warrants. Like what when you first started, like what did you start with?
What was quite
Funds?
Yeah. So what was quite interesting, I used to, because when I studied commerce, like you look into the pension, and my first job was in Australia. It wasn't even in Hong Kong. And in the superannuation we had, this pension we had, you always have like, similar to Hong Kong, a portfolio of what funds you can pick, right? Uncontrolled environment.
Right.
And also
Right.
the money wasn't very good. It wasn't very big, sorry, because it comes out of your salary. It's just a portion of it. But you got to choose what they call like, probably, I believe it's what's called a passive fund. You can put it into a tech-related industry specific. It can be a country specific, and then also they break it up into like a high, a mid, and a low risk portfolio. And at that time, what I did is I passively managed it in terms of I put it towards a hedge fund using the allocated to my pension. And this was prior to me coming to Hong Kong. But when I came to Hong Kong, and we know how vibrant the market is in terms of
Yes.
investments. So
Yes.
one of the first things that's probably get a grasp of is HSI, the Hang Seng Index. It's
Oh.
So the thing is, like, I remember it was actually my mom that bought a lot of shares, like on my behalf, or bought some shares on my behalf. And regionally, what I invested a lot in was high dividend shares, so high yield shares. So the first dabble really into shares, as in like the HSI, is actually in high yield shares. And all I did at the time, I Googled something and just, benefit to me is I speak Chinese, so the information is in abundance. And I just searched for what was high yield shares. And these were traditionally banking industries, mainland banks. And it's very easy, even I think without a lot of financial background, you can pretty much see that, oh, this returned 6%, that returned 8%. You put your money towards these sort of kind of very safe and dividend paying kind of blue chip stocks. And we know like blue chip, from like 1 to 5 in Hong Kong, and number 5 is HSBC Bank. And it gives a good dividend. So that's what I used to do.
Like at that time, you were more like a passive, a long-term investor, right? Because you're looking at dividends.
Exactly, because I think what we would need to realize is, and this is going back to me being joining the insurance industry, it gave me a tremendous amount of knowledge about financial literacy. What are the different classifications in financial assets? It went all the way from deposits to a hedge fund, to like a forex, to HSI, to the equities, and into derivatives, and then and now crypto, that sort of things. And insurance was like a part of it, one of the underlying kind of financial assets you look at. So what I really learned about investment is risk. How do you manage your risk, and what's your susceptibility to risks? So obviously, high risk, high returns, but also high risk, high returns also involves a lot of your personal time invested into something, right? So I didn't, at the time, I think I had quite an intense career. So what I did is I bought into obviously the high yield shares, like, mainland banks. In Chinese called 內地銀行股票. And we also put some money into what they call REITs. So real estate, infrastructure funds, for example, Link in Hong Kong, 領匯基金. So or 越秀地產. So these sort of things were very safe, like fail safe, because it pays, I'm pretty sure still now about 5 to 6% per year, and they pay it depending on the company. If you hold it past the X date, etc., you'll get some amount of money. And also, I taught myself a lot of during this whole process. I read a lot about how people invested. About how you became active. And one of the first tools I used, I mean, I'm a Chinese speaker, so I have the benefit of reading Chinese, but I use a tool called AA Stock. So the
Yes.
reason I used it is it's a very easy to use stock screener. Okay.
Right.
Personally,
AA Stocks is very famous.
Yes, so one of the reasons I used over other tools, it's because the first thing is, even if you don't do any kind of direct investments in your own money, remember in Hong Kong, we have our MPF, right? So with our MPF, we've got to like make our money work harder. That's the topic for today. We have to look at like, because I remember like, for example, your company chooses a HSBC, right? And or like a BCT. And then you can actually move half your money off to another hedge fund house to manage your MPF. How do you go about doing that? So the A stock actually is the website version, has a very good aggregator of all your funds that you can see. So you just don't pop and see a Manual Life or an AIA, you get to see everything and you can kind of see everything and you can see a pack. So to me, that's a very easy to use tool. It wasn't very difficult, it's very intuitive, English, Chinese, simplified Chinese. And also the interface was very simple. For a beginner like me at the time, it suited me very well. Obviously, as I got more advanced, and then I want to do more technical analysis based on numbers, trends, and patterns, maybe it wasn't as suitable. But for a beginner, it was a very good dashboard of information for controlling my MPF and also for seeing kind of quite critical information when I want high yield shares, because it gave very simple kind of ways for me to figure out, hey, when do I hold my dividend till when? And then I have the rights to get dividends. Because things like that to a novice can be very confusing. And also at the same time, I actually read up a lot on, to be honest, I didn't read a lot of books, I have to admit, but instead I actually read a lot of informative kind of like a executive summaries of a lot of things off a site called Money Hero. I can show you guys.
I know that one, yes.
Chinese and also in English, and it's just very basic tips in how you manage it. And also, I followed a specific blogger, a Hong Kong blogger, and I thought he gave very good steady advice into how he started his own journey in investing. And the guy explained a lot about REITs, why you should pick that, why not. And also there was when I was working in an insurance company, I also sat in a lot of courses that was being taught or an explanation into funds. They're presented by certain fund houses like a BlackRock, Shoulder. And I would also look and mimic what my MPF did, right? I picked and I followed that. So I didn't do anything that was too different from that, because I figured the hedge fund manager is doing this, why don't I follow that? But obviously then it's up to me to figure out when you enter, when do you not. But because like I said, I looked into high yield investments, it didn't really, I suppose it didn't matter as much because it wasn't very volatile, right? That what price I entered, because it was a long hold for quite a long time, except that at the time I probably wanted one where it was like an MPF, and then I might have put some money away in like my own shares. The reason I did that, because MPF is something that maybe I can't exit, it's not very liquid. I can't get it out of like Hong Kong right away until a certain age, right? Or I just leave the country. But in shares, the reason sometimes I put money in there and mimic my MPF portfolio, it's because shares you can exit in case you need the cash flow for your personal finances. Yeah. So the HSI was something that I probably begun when I first arrived in Hong Kong in 2012. And I've had a process of buying high yield shares in mainland Chinese banks to telcos and also insurance companies. Because they are blue chip stocks. They don't fluctuate even if the economy goes bad because they're very core. And I might have even bought like infrastructure stocks. So good or bad in the economy, it's very regular in the dividends that it pays out. So yeah, I maintained that for a long time.
I have there is a quick question from Daphlier. He's asking, what crypto coins are you investing in?
Oh, okay. So my journey into crypto was very interesting. Okay, so I did a business degree, and I have friends who probably indirect in the finance industry. So as a female, to be honest, when I hear the word crypto, to me, it's a cryptic. It's very confusing, right? And the first thing that I just went through is I just bought what was most liquid, and also which had the biggest market capitalization. So how big could the market be? And that time it was it was Bitcoin, and then I was introduced to Ripple, and because it was based on smart contract. Oh, sorry, and then it was Ethereum. Ethereum was based on smart contracts, and Bitcoin because it was the most liquid, and Bitcoin Cash because that was the next best one. And then it was Ripple because those were the popular coins at the time. But the day I invested in was, it should have been earlier, in honesty, because a friend talked about it and actually wanted to hand in hand guide me through it back in 2014. I wouldn't say it's a good or bad decision, but I think at the time I did not have an appetite. Like I said, investment is about risk. I didn't have an appetite for any crypto. And at the time, I probably needed a lot of guidance into believing in something that not even institutions would invest in. Because I invested in a lot of regulated products, like a REITs, HSI, and maybe like an IPO, right? Mm-hmm. But crypto, no regulations. What I'm going to do, And the other thing is crypto. So 2014, my friend bought into it. I think at the time maybe it was like 500 USD. I'm not sure what it is anymore. But I bought into it in December 2017. Mm-hmm. And I actually had someone that guided me through the whole process of onboarding.
How much was it at that time?
I got to look back into it, Japa. I'm pretty sure that it was close to 16K. We can look on it. And I bought it on the Christmas Eve, like 23rd or 24th of December back in 2017. But I had a really good friend that actually guided me through it. Because I never bought it through, the kind of typical methodology of mining. I didn't do that. I also didn't go through and had to put in the money, deposit, and go and exchange. I didn't do all of it. I was really lucky. I got to bypass all of it because my friend did that process, and I didn't even pay a transaction fee. My friend just sold me the crypto at the market rate because he said it would do well. And at the time, I just bought a certain amount. I think it may be around 15 to 16K. However, one thing about crypto, as I've learned, is it's 24/7. Fluctuations are immense. There's a lot of speculations. Plus, so let's have a look. I think Japa is looking back in December. It was about, I think it was 23rd I bought. December 23rd, 2017.
Well, was okay. Yeah. It was around this price, 13K, around 13K.
From memory, I actually thought it was higher, but
okay.
Fluctuated a lot between a few days. I think even between a few days is crazy. So what happened then? I remember sitting my laptop, and I remember I had someone explain to me, what is a ledger? What is not a ledger? Hot and a cold wallet. I had someone explain to me what's an exchange, a peer-to-peer versus a fiat to a crypto. Oh, and also one thing I did is I read a book called Bitcoin for Dummies. And I would say that it was very useful. And I read probably like about a half of it because I read the chapters relevant to me at the time. And I read a lot about blockchain technology. I read about how, Ethereum and Ripple helped in, the verification process, how it was about decentralization of a ledger, and how the fundamentals behind it. Because I needed to believe that, I'm going to get the money back, Because I think at the time, what was quite interesting is my friend transferred maybe like $5 of Bitcoin to me just to make sure I was doing it right. Because I remember like transferring Bitcoin at the time was a string of long coding. I think it's the BEP code. And you paste it in quite a mysterious looking website. And it was not simple. And I think to a lot of people onboarding, it can be quite frightening because you don't know who is.
I understand.
Yes. So my friend did a test, and then afterwards I got it. And then I picked a certain company in Hong Kong. I'm not going to talk about the name. To park my money in as a hot wallet. I chose not to use a cold wallet at the time.
I have a quick question from Ricardo. He's asking, does Angela use some traditional strategy, or she has her own setup? And what type of tools does she use to trade?
So for traditional strategies, I didn't do anything. I think when I first started, which was like 2012, I definitely just managed my MPF. Because I wasn't confident, right? So, but what I did do is I looked into what my risk appetite is, and then I choose based on that. And then when I saved my money, like I said, like a third of my income, then I would mimic my MPF, and I just followed. And I don't think that's a bad way to start for most people. Just because you are following someone who is doing this at a 24/7 mark, it's their core business, they are taught in it. They're compensated based on it. So, I would have picked maybe something like for example, like I think last time I looked something, a BlackRock fund, in like technology, I would look at that. And then normally, and what's quite interesting is in a fund sheet, which you can download on AA Stock again, or even like on a BlackRock site of Schroeder, etc. They actually list out the top investments, right, in each of the equities. So to me, I just followed. Like I didn't do anything that advanced. And I think at the time there might have been like a first date, and I would follow, and I would just look at very simple things, basic data. I think most people without a finance background can do. You can look at what's the year to date performance, what's the past year performance, what is the month to date performance. So year to date means like from here, from the start of the year till March. Month to date, maybe the month of March, what's happened. So you can kind of assess which one you want to mimic and follow. That's all I did. Did I think about financial analysis and all of that? I didn't at the time. And you know why? Because I was mimicking what a hedge fund did. And so that was the tool I actually used. I went to AA Stock, I looked at the fund sheets and everything, because I'm quite a wordy person, even though I did a business degree. I looked into how the analysts explained why the construct of the funds was like that. So sometimes, because in Hong Kong, right, if you kind of buy on your own, you may not have ready access to the Latin American funds. Why is that? Because we need to set up a fund, a separate brokerage account, maybe on a TD Ameritrade, on IB, indirect brokers. People might, you have to place your own trades. It's very daunting for some people. What do you press the wrong button? Instead of buying, you're selling. As a novice, this can happen. So we've got to, the operation side of it to the analysis of it, it's confusing to a lot of people, which is why some people don't do it. And all I did at the time, I mimicked a hedge fund I bought in my MPF or my pension in Australia, and I copied. It wasn't anything too difficult at the time. And I was just very careful when I got onto obviously the trading platform. I was very careful in, the type of, settlement orders. What I mean by that, how do you buy the actual share? Because I think lots and lots of people get very daunted by the actual placing of a order. because there's like at market orders, there's limit orders, there's stop loss orders, etc., like odd lots, etc.
Very confusing.
Yeah, because I think even at the time, I think in 2012, I didn't even sign up with any securities brokers. I wouldn't say it's the right thing to do. Coming back to looking at it, I just used my personal bank because it was traditional. I even did a thing where I called up and placed a trade because I felt like I wasn't comfortable in placing a trade myself. So everyone has their journey in how you learn, but I think with the availability of YouTube, and also a lot of investment platforms now, they have novice traders. They will teach you step by step in how you actually place a trade, which is very important because imagine if you do press the wrong button, yeah, that's a lot of money being lost as such. Yeah. And
Well, I have just a quick question. Do you follow rumors? For example, Wall Street Bets, GameStop. What happened to GameStop? Did you take that trade?
so I remember GameStop was an afterthought when it happened, but I did. So sometimes I think. So I think it's quite interesting because in Hong Kong, a lot of the market has a lot of noise. The reason being, it's probably the mainland funds come in. So every day, they talk about the northern water, 北水向南, like the northern water, as in the northern money, it's coming down to Hong Kong, and you would hear that a lot. So what happened is there's a lot of pump and dump. What do you mean by that? A lot of the investors are encouraged to buy into something. They pump up the share price, they dump it again within the same day. So
What do you think of that?
It happens all the time. I think personally, if you are building gazillionaire and if you're willing to do it, pump and dump. But the trade side is, do you have the time to manage it? I think that, I think a lot about investments. If you do manage like trades, you really have to think about the time. Are you sitting there at your desk doing it? It's really critical. And also the mindset, the attitude that you have in trading has to be really mentally strong. And it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of learning of how to do it. And also discipline by meaning that maybe before you even buy into a share, you actually need to look at the stop gains or even like a stop loss strategy, and how do you hedge your risk? Hedging, by that I mean, how do you break down your risks into something more minor, which is why, when some people buy something, they buy it on a long call and then also on a short call because they want to pair it. So they're just making money off the differences. So they feel more comfortable. And there's a lot of strategy in how you do it. And I think a lot of like Japa yourself probably do a lot of like pairing strategies. You look at a lot of technical analysis, but I probably didn't quite do that. And in terms of gossip, yeah, bump and dump, you can do it, but you must be sitting in front of a computer when you do it because that level of variability is within a day. Like, for example, I think it was last year, they had a pump and dump case on NASDAQ with Kodak. And in the NASDAQ, there's a thing called circuit breaker. You would break the circuit and then it would actually stop. And that happened last year on Kodak. And even I myself, personally, I got burned because you miss out on the start. And also depending on, I think, the platform you use, on the news that you look at every day, or like, it's really different because I read Chinese and English, right? So you read through a lot of things every single day. And the main kind of news source, I would say, is a Bloomberg. It's the current platform I use, Futu, right? FUTU, and Chinese called Futu. I also look at the Hong Kong ET, so the Economic Times, and that's pretty much it. But I think that's already a lot of info for what it's worth.
What happens when it goes against you? The trade goes against you. How do you cut losses? You cut very quickly, or you wait a bit? Like, how does that work?
So when I have a pump and dump, I pretty much like see if I do participate in the end of the day, I would never go all in. because I think that's not even managing risk. That's just called gambling, right? But you know, a lot of people have risk appetite to do a lot of things, or they might think, hey, you know what, it's fine. It's just 10K USD. You can do it, but that's not my risk appetite. And what I would generally do is probably just set a stop gain, because sometimes, in honesty, when I'm living in Asia, right, and you're trading US stock, that's in the middle of the night. So obviously, what you would do is you would use the ability within your various brokers to place a trade where you can hit a limit and it will sell on your behalf, or you have hit a certain bottom out and then trailing the losses, and you can set a percentage or price point you think the resistance or where we're headed to stop loss. Maybe it's a minus 10%, and you know, things like that. You keep it very simple. Put on Excel what you bought, $10. It's 10% up, 10% down, then maybe that's your threshold, so to speak. And I think it's really important. Even when I work in insurance, and I think even every day in the bank now, in a lot of countries, they do a thing called financial needs analysis. They go through what is your risk appetite, and you've got to be honest to yourself. What is your risk appetite? You know, I think any money, this is a personal opinion of mine, if you're going to pump and dump, just make sure if you do that, you're happy to lose it. Otherwise, don't do it, because there is no recovery from a pump and dump, because it is a pump and dump.
Would you stay awake the entire night until the end of the session in the stock market? No.
No need for that,
Because some people here do, so that's why I asked.
Japa, is I think yes, we could do that, but I don't think it's necessary. Just because why I say that is how far, because it's a pump and dump, right? There's no kind of a fundamental analysis in how you sell it. So I think it works easier. I think the pump and dump in NASDAQ, because on the NASDAQ, on Dow Jones, you know, every share, it's only one share, right? But in Hong Kong, the shares is by lots. Yeah. And because of that, it's, you know, for example, if you buy on the NASDAQ, let's say you bought 10 stocks or like 100 stocks, you can partial sell your stocks, right? So you can sell it at this, at that price, which means that you're scaling, like your dollar cost averaging your sell price to achieve an average sold price. So you could do that to maximize your profits. But then you have to realize that at some point you may not gain a profit because that money, it never got, that lot order never got executed, right? And then you have to suffer there, and then you take that as a loss. So however you do it, I think something to think about is you have to really understand what is the trade order. And I think Japa would be better explaining it. Well, you know, for example, what's the limit price? You set the price limit. What is the market price? It means that you can definitely execute at the market price. It's not a price set by, say, Japa or myself, Angela. It's really important. I think if you sit around the whole night to do it on something that's a pump and dump, it's fine. But personally, I think it may stress yourself out too much. I mean, you want to go ahead, but I think the smarter way is just to set probably a price and just preset it. Let's say you think, hey, it can go up 100%. Just not 100% of the price you bought at. 200, then you execute. If not, I mean, if you stay all night, you can. But I think for some people, sleep is quite important too. Yeah. I mean, there's to do it.
No, I just wanted to ask about the NFTs. Do you think non-fungible tokens, is it just like a fad, something temporary, or is it going to be something that will stay, or is just like a fever and will go away?
I understand that NFT was actually used to me inadvertently by a Korean friend, because they do team purchases of the cryptocurrencies. They are very advanced. What they do is they look on Coinbase, they look at the top 10 cryptos every day, and they actually follow your strategy, Jabber. They look at a very complicated, sorry, I wouldn't use the word complicated. As a more advanced way of technical analysis, they follow the Japanese investor, BNF. They actually follow your channel, in honesty. They follow Ichimoku. They do the trend analysis. And they also look at a lot of resistance levels. And so they apply what they do on the equities onto crypto, right? So that friend whom I trust because they do so much technical analysis, he just told me about NFT about last summer. But actually, no, even further than that, I heard of a thing called crypto kitties. And that was told to me by another friend because it was fad. And because I bought Bitcoin back in 2017, I've just read a lot of things here and there. But at the time, CryptoKitty was just like a random ICO that went on board and it was very cute, it's tradable, that looks like a Pokemon, right? And I didn't pay a lot of attention. And I think what the noise that I think became really apparent for me was actually recently someone invited me on a new app called Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, yes.
Single Clubhouse, because Clubhouse was very much a venture capitalist started arena, which is social network during COVID-19 in the pandemic, because you can network, with a lot of people. They talked a lot about NFTs, and my friend also talked about a lot of NFTs, about crypto kitties. But to me, those things seemed very like a real fact, like a trend, not even any intrinsic values. But when I started hearing that I think it was Beeple, Beeple, I can't remember his surname. I think Michael W, right? Um, it was an art, being traded, from a certain amount to a really high amount. That's when I realized, there was noise around NFTs. Okay, now, but the thing is, NFTs, from I've read just a little bit about it. From what I understand, it's very much based on someone taking ownership of something, be it a product or services. It can range from artwork to a smart contract to even like a song or even like an idea, right? It can be tokenized. And some people do say that there was market because cryptocurrency doesn't fundamentally have any regulations, right?
Right.
There could be, what we call insider trading, almost much with transactions like this to get it the noise up, right? But I did read a little bit of info on OpenSea, Nifty, Coinbase, Basics, and some YouTube videos, on the Wall Street Journal speaking about it, and also chimed in every now and then on NFTs on Clubhouse because there are a lot of artists who really want their fans to buy into their art and own it. I think NFTs is a great idea because artists deserve their work to be compensated. However, how do you participate? Do you participate as what I want to hold and buy the artwork and buy the tokens related to the artwork, or do you speculate on it? I think that's a decision to be made. And I know some people want to, create an artwork and then make it into an NFT as well. I think it really depends on what perspective you partake in it and how do you even like buy into it. Because I know that there's like a lot of marketplaces these days that is beginning to sell NFTs.
Right.
Some of it is like a CryptoKitty, where it's a separate platform. Some of it is like an actual artwork on like a certain marketplace starting with an N. Because nifty, yeah.
And there is a question here. So what do you think of Clubhouse? Does it help traders? Like, is it really meaningful to participate in Clubhouse?
Personally, I think, first of all, what's annoying about Clubhouse? It's only iPhone. So I'm sorry, Android users, you have to have an iPhone, number one. Yeah, don't go download anything else because then you'll be having a Trojan or malware. That's not nice. Number two, I think you've got to really search for quality rooms within Clubhouse because Clubhouse, when it's very great quality, it can actually replace almost like a webinar, right? And it can actually replace, and it can be a free way for you to obtain very high level information. What I mean by that is people that could be a CEO of a Shopify actually sits on Clubhouse. And I'm a Cantonese speaker myself, so it's something a bit lucky. If anyone on here is also a Cantonese speaker, and I'm not trying to plug that room, but there is a certain room that happens every evening at 8:52 that talks to a lot of speakers. And one of the evenings, the moderator, who is also inadvertently the membership coordinator used to be for the startup weekend in Hong Kong, which is like a startup competition thing. And he interviewed someone about NFTs, quite a famous Hong Kong celebrity. And when I chimed into it, it was very high quality information because they explained what's an NFT, how do you participate as a speculator, how do you participate as a creator, and how do you participate as a seller. You know, which is the exchanges you can go on, and what are the hit NFTs you can buy. Maybe you buy the next Beatle artwork, maybe you buy the next song artist, maybe it's I think one of the bands is Kings of Leon from memory that also had an NFT. So I mean, there's a number of ways I think we participate, but I think on Clubhouse what's really important is you've got to chime in and you have to look and see the moderators. Are they, you know, for real? Did they pop on the LinkedIn, you know? So they bring, you know, is it just a bunch of people speaking? If it's just a bunch of people speaking, then only participate when you have free time, and maybe you just want to get a gathering feeling of, hey, someone else is doing it too, right? But if you're there for information, you've really got to look on the various profile of the moderators, and a lot of them are very professional. They'll write down who they'll invite, what is the profile of it. They'll have a Twitter, they'll link it to an Instagram and a LinkedIn, and you can find the information and look at it. But there have been instances where I thought, oh my God, the head of 4B, which is an OKEX, you know, a crypto exchange, is actually free and talking on Clubhouse, which to me is very interesting. But mind you, Clubhouse is unedited. It's almost like a live podcast. So as a listener, sometimes it's a bit difficult to figure out if you can stay the whole time, because you can't record the sessions because you have a blinker and you can't record it. So you've got to kind of chime in every now and then. But I think it's useful in terms of probably verifying what you're thinking in your head. If you, let's say, hey, do I maybe buy a interesting coin? Like, I don't know, last week, I think an IC was Alice. Do you buy that?
Alice.
You want other members to talk about it, because, you know, not everyone wants to be on Reddit, you know, read 3,000 threads. Some people just want someone who's immediately traded about it. Because a lot of people on Clubhouse, what they do is like they pop in like a GitHub, they pop in like a LinkedIn, they pop in some sort of like a third-party platform to verify they've done something. So only enter those clubs and then ask those people, hey, what do you think about something? And a lot of, I think, because the way Clubhouse is, it's early adopters, it also means that a lot of people that's on it are likely to be more knowledgeable about something that's also quite not early adopter stage, but more advanced stage, like a Bitcoin Asia or like a Bitcoin crypto.com will be on it. And to be surprisingly, sometimes they allow anyone to, you know, put their hands up to ask a question. And I think that's the interesting part about Clubhouse. You can actually put your hand up and ask a question. And some clubs are really regular, like every single day. So you can always chime in and just ask. And God forbids why, some people are always on it answering questions. And that's not a bad thing, because it's the immediate answer, you know. It's not scheduled. You can just chime in.
Well, so
you do have to verify a lot of things of what they said.
Oh, thanks for the insights. I didn't know that much about Clubhouse. Like, really good.
So, yeah, and I think there was also a couple of websites I really wanted to share, and I think that would really help.
Yes, please. Yes.
Because I think a lot of people, they want to invest, they don't know how to start, because no one, because as an adult, we have a full-time job, you know, how do you balance all of it? How do you get basic info? And in Hong Kong, like, which is where I live, you get bombarded with so much news every day, you know, like on everyday news, it's half an hour, it's dedicated to finance. But where do you start? So if Japa can share.
Yes, please, share. You can share now.
Yeah, okay. So share your screen. So I spoke about one of the websites. It's called Money Hero. So you'll see that Money Hero, it's an English website. So what I find is really great is
I can't see it. Can you share it, please?
Okay.
Just click here on the bottom, share screen. Yeah, okay. Yes.
So
yes, Money Hero. Yes, I can see it. Yes.
So Money Hero goes through a lot of really basic stuff. And between the Chinese and English side, it's very similar, maybe some stuff, more articles and blogs. But
Mhm.
Japanese, as well as I do, there's a Chrome extension. You can always auto translate your website. So never say that things are in Chinese, you can't translate. You can always translate. You may not do it 100%, but it's 80% correct. So Google's very
Yes.
powerful in that. There's always a way when, Rome wasn't built one day, but if you really want information, you can get it. One tip I would say, if you do want to trade in the HSI on the Hang Seng Index, news
Yes.
is readily available in Chinese. And like I said, use the Google Chrome extension, auto translate everything, and just have a look and see where the info is. So you'll see that on this website, there's a lot of info on the personal loan, income compare, credit cards, insurances, mortgages, securities account. What's really cool is this website actually is really easy onboarding of, how do you buy a Hong Kong IPO? How do you buy a US IPO? Which securities broker gives you a better discount? And it's very smart because I think Hong Kong people are pretty street smart. All the info is on there. So it's like, for example, you pop up on the Hong Kong stock account, you can actually, they
So do
would,
they list all the IPOs for Hong Kong and the US?
I think this website gives you a blog of how you can buy a Hong Kong IPO. It gives you really
Uh,
useful tips, and that's really
right,
important.
right.
So you'll see here, the providers, it lists everything here. So all information is always available. And then you pick, obviously, a lot of people pick based on maybe the margins rate, the commission rate. I personally went with Futu. And then there's SoFi, there's a lot of things. And personally, I just picked my passive portfolio of stocks. It's with a bank, a traditional bank, and my active one is with a stockbroker. The reason being is the stockbroker I chose, I'm not disclose which the Futu one. It's because it gives me statements and it records past transactions, and also the platform is very user friendly and it's very quick with information. One day we can show a platform, but research yourself. I really like it because I can see what, like I said, I love following hedge funds into why they buy. And that specific platform, Futu, the broker, reveals that information to me free of charge. So to me, that's a big
Oh, free of charge. Very good.
it's a 2+1, so it's a same day plus 1 day settlement. But to me, that's really great because sometimes as a novice, I can't justify paying a monthly fee for real-time information. Okay, so to me, that's really useful. And so I use AA stock and I also use Futu as my information tool for the HSI. And going back to Money Hero, you pretty much see there's a lot of info. So it's all there. And also, one of the things that's really useful is obviously there's financial, the blog. So something about the blog that Money Hero does, it's a lot of information about the Hong Kong IPO because IPOs are really big things these days. They'll go through a lot of info, 10 ways to explore e-wallets, IPOs. So there's a lot of useful info. The other thing is, because I usually look at insurance and to be very honest, Hong Kong actually has the longest rate. I'm sorry, the highest age expectancy of any human beings in the world. So
Oh, yes.
even longer than Japan, right? And
Yes. Even longer than Japan. Yes.
in Hong Kong, if you do buy insurance as a part of your life stage, because you're getting married, you need to buy a life insurance policy. Hong Kong actually has the lowest rate in terms of insurance. So, for example, for where every $1 million you buy, Hong Kong, surprisingly, be it term insurance or endowment insurance, has the lowest rate. So I would say that compared, let's say, the States or like in Australia, in New Zealand, and because of Hong Kong, the tax reasons, it's a very favorable place, I think, to park it, to buy insurance, full stop. And also here, they've got a lot of basic GI insurance, general insurance info. It's all there, so you can have a look. These things are pretty important, I think, to manage your risks. And also the website shows you a lot of mortgage information. That's what's really important. It saves the bank a buck. You're about to invest in real estate. So that's one site I always go to and tell my friends, please read it. So before you go up, I mean, you can read all the books in the world you are in investing, but I think sometimes as a beginner, it's too daunting. And also it's not up to date because the book gets outdated. A website like this, I think is very useful. Another one we can look at is A stock. So it's going to show you guys, I think even Japa, you use A stock, right?
I know the website. I don't use it all the time.
Yeah. I'll quickly show it. So this website comes in English so Hong Kong always is trilingual, so it makes it very user friendly, right? So all the info it's in English, yeah. And you can pop on it, you can see the quote, the market, real time. Obviously, you pay money, you get the real time services. You can see what CBBCs, ETFs, MPF. So you know, like it's a lot of info. And MPF, you know, I used to say that I just go on it and do MPF comparisons. I will list out everything. So to me, this is a very simple to use website and a tool to look at as well. And then a mobile app version, but I definitely find the desktop version to be a lot easier to use because it's information on one screen. And also they now have a little bit in the crypto as well.
Oh yeah, they have a tab for cryptocurrency now.
Everyone loves talking crypto. So you will say on here, like popped up on here, if you click on it. But I think this is just the information website. I think a lot of people use Binance and CoinCap, Coinbase.
Oh yes, yes.
Crypto is live. You can see the changes, etc. How big is the turnover, and you can see the market cap, the 5-day chart, etc. But personally, I think the other crypto website is a little bit better. Because you can see past history. This only shows the last 5 days, and you'll see that you know someone asked what I did invest in at one time. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple was what I began with. However, I now currently hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, BTT, so BitTorrent, also GRT, and also Dogecoin. So yeah, I hold those coins at the moment. But my friend who trades all the time, they actually hold the top 10 coins based on Coinbase because that's most actively traded coins. So yeah, but that's the story another day. And I'm a hodl person. I think that's the term being used. I hold my crypto for the long term. I do not actively trade it at all. I just left it since I haven't moved my portfolio a lot, and actually profit out my portfolio as well at the 32K mark. The reason I did that, I just wanted to park and secure my profit. And now my profits goes back to Ethereum. The reason being NFT technology, the underlying technology to NFTs is actually Ethereum. So I bought into that and I'm planning to hodl on it as well and just hold on to it. Yeah. So another website to look at, it's really good. It's called, so it's Money Hero. So in Hong Kong, and this is coming back to, I think, improving financial literacy for anyone, is Hong Kong actually have a thing called IFEC. So what is that? It's a little bit about the institute. It's an institute where they go, or a council, right? It's the Investor and Financial Education Council. So for me, I'm very much an ABC back to basics person. Because being an insurance agent back in the day, and I also work for a broker, a lot of people get stuck into thinking, oh, what's this, what's that? So this site is really great. It's very basic info, but it will explain to you about investments. So if someone goes, hey, I don't know what a CBBC is, this site explains it really well in Chinese and in English. It will talk about the latest scams that's out there, it will talk about green finance. It will go through certain instruments like warrants, a derivative, like structured products here. You say there's derivatives, warrants, inline warrants, CBBCs. So in Chinese, it's the ones like Wallen, right? And the other one, CBBCs, is the Ao Hong Zeng. So they will talk about things like that. And then, yeah, and I think this is also explains investment products like stocks, the ETFs, so funds, structured products, then there is bonds. So I think I didn't talk about ETFs, and that's something I think quite important as well in Hong Kong. Exchange traded funds. So a lot of people buy ETFs like into HSI. I mean, either they sell it, but they buy the ETF based on that. So one really popular one is the ETF is the 388, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, right?
Among all these products that you mentioned about, which one would be your most favorite one? Would that be IPOs?
I wouldn't say so, because I remember, okay, so that's an interesting question. So Hong Kong people talk a lot about that Hong Kong IPO. The reason is they always think that when a mainland China company lists, they'll make money. So recently, I actually went into doing the IPO. So the actual how to do an IPO, it's not complicated, but it's very fiddly in terms of how you set up your accounts. So if you do it through a bank, what's really, okay, different banks is different. My bank, it's complicated because you have to open the bank account and then you have to have a separate account, and you have to put money between a savings and a check account. It's very simple, but you've got to open 2 accounts. Otherwise, they can't do the settlements in payments.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's very simple. You just need to spend a day verifying it, doing the KYC and all of that. And I think sometimes if you are going to trade, you're going to do something, you have to put time into it. You can't just say not do it, because things don't happen overnight, and there will be certain compliance rules you need to comply with. I think though, if you do a lot of the online brokers these days, it's a lot simpler because everything's done online. KYC, submission of documents, verification, that's done online. So it's up to you. But applying on IPO, a lot of Hong Kong people buy the IPO based on margins. So they might, put together only 10,000, but they might borrow like another $150,000 in order to get the IPO as such. But a recent IPO that was supposed to be really heated, a secondary listing was Baidu, right? The Baidu, which is the search engine in China.
Yes.
That listed, but there was no gains on top of it, which is, to be honest, is a little bit rare compared to a lot of the previous IPOs that's happened. But it happens. A lot of people in Hong Kong view IPOs as buy and dump. They buy it and they dump it on the same day because of the rush of the money, right? So, obviously, you always have to look at the intrinsic value. Do you believe in it? Previously, I think last big one was the Kuaishou technology, and that one, I think it came up and then it went down again. In the gray market, it went up. So it really depends. And one site I also wanted to show you guys. So this is really interesting. The IFEC website, very basic, but I think it's very well worth people to look into it. And also this website has a part where it's for the kids as well. So if you're a parent and you have kids, it's also good to look at, how do you manage it for kids? How do you invest for the kid for like a college fund, your MPF, and what are the traps to avoid as a novice participant in the stock market. And the last slide I really wanted to show was the Hong Kong, and I think Japa was the one that asked me, how do I know about IPOs? And I just showed him this website. It's a Hong Kong financial news website. And on here, okay, this site is not in English, okay? So the only way, I think at the time Japa told me is, I think he's a tech guy, so he can tell you one day, right? There's an extension onto like a Safari or a Chrome. You install it, it will auto-translate, right? My computer doesn't do that, but I'm sure all of you guys can do it. And then under a certain tab, you can click on it under like Choiking, which is finance. You can see like here, even in English, you can see the letters IPO, initial, the initial offering of a share.
Initial public offering. Yes. Yes.
So you'll see here, it talks about the number of IPOs that'll be listed. The reason I think a platform, the Hong Kong financial news platform, is a little bit easier than let's say a Bloomberg, is because Bloomberg, a lot of the articles is very text-based, like text, right? But the Hong Kong ones, they come in little, thumbnails. You can see it's user-friendly. It's like a lot of it is just short excerpts of info. So you'll see here, obviously today came up. This is the Bilibili, and if you click on it, a lot of the Hong Kong stuff, you can have a look. You're always listed what they call the ticker number. So in the States, the ticker is a ticker letters, but in Hong Kong, it's ticker numbers, right? So Bilibili is going to list as 9626.
Well, good. I didn't know that.
what I mean is like things like that. I think it's unfamiliar to a lot of people, but in honesty, you can get a Google Translate and translate all of this information quite readily, right? So in Hong Kong, what a lot of people judge on how well IPO is going is how much the volume of the oversubscription into
Yes.
stock, and also the amount of margins being lent out by the various brokers, like an Everbright, like a Futu, or like an IB, or like a HSBC. So these are statistics will get released along the way between the release of the IPO starting to the actual listing date, and all this info would come out. And you'll just need to pay attention to like a timeline. And a timeline normally is you can easily find it if you Google something like Bilibili, Standard Chartered IPO. You can normally follow instructions. But one thing, like I always say, you normally have to set up like your normals account. You have a securities account, and you also need a check account. The reason being is when you borrow the margins, normally they need to see the money needs to be in another account so they can account for the loan, the kind of margin loan you're getting from the bank. If you're using a traditional bank with a online stockbroker, it's a lot more simple. Just a few clicks of buttons and you can normally manage it. So these are actually important because I think as a novice, you might think, hey, I click 5 buttons and I can set up an account for a security broker. Trust me, it's not as simple. Because Japa was the one that told me, let's try and open interactive brokers. But interactive brokers gave me hell because they would not accept my Hong Kong ID number. And I don't know why. I messaged them, chatbot them, emailed them. It just will not accept it. So I gave up. So that's why I went to Futu. So there are certain things you don't expect that'll come up. When you're ready to invest, please make sure you set all these things up because it takes time and it does take a little bit of work guiding you all through. But if you're going to do it, don't give yourself an excuse. Just do it. And you may not have to have the trade into doing it, but look on the kind of menu into how to place a trade, understand what types of trades, and kind of 5 tips that I would really love to conclude with. I mean, I wrote a little bit of not like a slide as such, but I had a bit of information. I would really say is look at kind of 5 things, right? Discipline. So make sure that you're really disciplined, set up stop losses and follow simple rules in the market, and also invest in more. Don't invest more in what you can lose. It's really important. It's on discretionary income. And also risk management. Manage your risks really well. Diversification, into a number of different, maybe it's the country, it's the currency, it's the industry, or in different financial instruments, all the way from a normal deposit into a loan deposit, into an ETF, into an MPF, and then insurance as well as the equities. Don't put all your money in basket into a derivative because it's all money into crypto because it's very volatile, right? It's market regulations. And also really look at the techniques that you may end up employing. So technique I did when I started and I still do it now, I actually look at maybe what a Goldman Sachs has bought, and that information is always available on Futu. I can show the screen. So like on Futu, you can actually see a lot of information across. So like for example, on data, they will have like a lot of the brokerage, what money they put into, and then you can see, on HSBC, this is what they bought, and then
where is it? We can't see it. Where is Futu?
Oh, I think.
Can you share it now? Can you share again?
Okay. Sorry, I was adjusting my screen. Okay, so what happened is on Futu when you set up an account, and to be honest, I think
is this your platform? This is your platform, right? What's this? Tencent.
Yeah. So the reason I like this platform is because you can click on like HSBC, and you can see that they invest the most in Tencent, AIA, Baidu, Baba, Meituan, right? So you can see, maybe you believe in the strategies of a Citibank, and you see they bought most in Baba, Tencent, and you can also see what price points they bought things at. In Citibank, you can see, where the valuation of it, and then if you click on like a to be honest, I think information like that, they are institutional investor in the end of the day, right? With a lot of money in hand, with a lot of intel that we may not as retailers have. Sometimes it beats to say, if you look into what they've done, there's a Heidi Lao, they buy returns in Ping An. You can then ascertain what is the appetite or the style of companies that they bought. And obviously then you can go back to always see how they invest. For example, Goldman Sachs, we know they do really well, like globally, right? I'm not sure about HSI because they're not very big in terms of investments, but they buy Tencent, Sans China, Meituan, Xiaomi, Meidong Auto, BYD. So you can see, like what are the institutional investors are doing and what you yourself are doing. And this is the information I really like on Futu. And I think information like that generally has to be purchased on like a Wall Street secrets, I think it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving your insights.
But obviously,
really useful information.
yeah. So hopefully, a bit of a wrap up, right? We talked for an hour.
Yeah. So that's it, guys. I think we don't have any more questions. So thank you so much, Angela, once again. I just said, okay, there is a guy it's called Sergio. He's saying, good morning, Japa from Brazil. Okay. Hi, guys. Okay, so thank you so much, Angela. And thanks for participating. And that's it. Would you like to say one last thing, any message from you to our viewers?
Oh, the last message I would say is I'm definitely not a professional investor. I've done many, many mistakes. The last thing I end with, review your mistakes. Like not review as in open up, but review what you've done that's wrong. And please use discipline. And also, if you don't have time, real active management, like an everyday trading or portfolio, it shouldn't be done because you do need a lot of time dedicated to it. And I would say that utilizing professional tools, advice, and a hedge fund, it's not a bad way to manage it. But I think what's really important is know your risks, appetite, and number two is understand how much time you can dedicate to your active management if you are actually going to trade yourself. And then the last one is if you can't do any of that, please believe in a professional, but have the financial literacy to understand what is it you purchase. I think that's really important and how to make your money work harder for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So once again, thank you so much, Angela Chan, with you guys. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in my next live video. Thanks again for participating, and goodbye.